Welcome back to Salt City Counseling, everybody. Once again, my name is Scott Carter. I'm a licensed therapist here in the beautiful state of Utah. Really appreciate your viewership. If you are new here, I hope you will subscribe to my channel. Super close to my first 1 million, so make sure that you hit subscribe. And also, please share this video. Please like the video, comment on the video. In this video, I'm going to talk about everyday normalized behaviors that trigger narcissistic trauma. If you're new here, I've been doing a series on healing narcissistic trauma. I've been doing this video series that are intended to take kind of a different type of approach to empower people to heal their own narcissistic trauma. I talk about this in those videos. Go check them out if you haven't already. I really don't believe that conventional therapy is that effective when it comes to actually helping people get that type of trauma figured out. And in this video, I'm going to talk about like average, everyday behaviors that I see that are they've kind of become normalized. I see a lot of people engage in these behaviors, even though those people may not necessarily be narcissistic in themselves. They may not have narcissistic personality disorder. They have just kind of more or less bought into, or they go along with a lot of these normalized everyday behaviors that I believe really trigger that narcissistic trauma, even create it. I see these types of attitudes and beliefs really mainstream, really consistent with just in our culture. I see kids, teenagers kind of being subjected to these ideas, to these attitudes, to these belief systems, and in a way it's actually psychologically problematic for them. I'm making this video for two reasons. One, if you've been watching my series on healing narcissistic trauma, this video is intended to help you identify some of those average everyday triggers and honestly to avoid them. This video is kind of about like avoidance or like what do you call it, where you're like addressing it before it becomes a problem. The term is escaping me, but I'm sure it'll pop up. But also, I hope this video will be introspective to people. I hope that this video will provide maybe some insights on our own behavior, so that if we are engaging in these behaviors, we can help to veer us off this track. It's a negative one, and hopefully be able to substitute some correct ideas in here as well. So so I'm going to get into this list, and hopefully this will be helpful to everybody. Again, please maybe ask yourself, do I ever do this to people? Do I treat people this way? Do I engage in these behaviors? And really ask yourself too, if you feel like you have narcissistic trauma, ways to catch them when they happen. Well, that's it. That's what Scott was talking about. But also to avoid. Preventative. That was the word I was looking for. To prevent these triggers from happening. If I'm really honest, I see these types of things primarily on social media. I don't encounter them nearly as much now that I've basically gotten rid of social media. And the news. And I believe some of these are kind of like subversive in the news as well. I don't know that I'm going to get into that. I don't know that I have time. Before I get into this list that I've made here, a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. Please subscribe to my channel. If you really like my content, go check out. If you really like my content, please hit the tip jar, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. For everyone that has already sent me some gratuity, is much appreciated. I just really thank you so much. And if you have a viewer question, you can email me, scottc@saltcitycounseling.com. Go check out my shiny new website. Just got some feedback today that there might be a few glitches, but we're going to work to get them figured out. But highconflictcommunity.com, where I have courses on high conflict, divorce, and custody. And so without further ado, let's get this out. Let's get to this list of basically everyday narcissism, everyday normalized narcissistic behaviors, things that might trigger narcissistic abuse. Okay, so in no particular order, number one is extreme anger to seemingly small issues or mistakes. Okay, I feel like I see this over use of the word or the sentiment that something is disgusting. And I feel like it's overused. I feel like disgust should be reserved to really the things, just kind of a small percentage of things, but I see it used across the board for anything and everything that people dislike. And so narcissists and narcissistic behaviors have a tendency to give you this much anger for this big of a mistake, right? And also they kind of make this is not necessarily on the list, but here's another one. They kind of make this look, they find like these small things, these behaviors. We found this small thing, you did this one wrong thing, and now you are completely and wholly awful as a human being because we found this one thing. Okay? And if, again, this is meant to be introspective, where everybody's good at like, oh, they do that, and they do that, and they do that. Okay? Have a look at yourself. I've done this too. I've been guilty of falling in these attitudes too. I'll own up to that, and I'm determined to do my part and just being like, I'm not going to behave that way. That's just not how it works, okay? But again, this much anger, this big of an issue, okay? Number 2, there's a zero tolerance policy for people's mistakes. None, zero. There is an expectation of perfection. You are expected to do exactly what you're supposed to do, exactly all of the time, exactly 100% perfection. And if you slip up, then you are now a horrible person. You're a villain. It's narcissistic. And the way that this is narcissistic is, first of all, to just grind out people's identity and character, just for what we perceive to be a mistake on their part or something that we're not willing to tolerate out of people, and just grind them out The reason why this is also narcissistic is because of the insane hypocrisy that usually comes with this. Everybody's a hypocrite. Everybody, all of us. We cannot make other people stop being a hypocrite. We can't, but we can look at ourselves, and it really starts with us, right? And so usually narcissistic behaviors, there's a lot of boo-boos, right? There's a lot of mistakes. But, the attitude, and I talked about this in another video, one of the attitudes of narcissism, one of the ways that I spot it is this idea that when you do it, you're evil. When I do it, it's fine, right? That's narcissistic. And most people just aren't looking close enough at their own behaviors to recognize, like, oh, I guess I should work on myself first, right? Let's go to number 3. Number 3, I feel like this one is important. I see this a lot. I see this on social media. The demand for apologies without offering any forgiveness. I feel like we see this all the time. I don't know that it is a good system to expect people to, apologize and say they're sorry if we are not willing to forgive them. And to me, that is very narcissistic to treat people this way, that I demand you give an apology, but I will not forgive you. I will only keep grinding you out, right? So that's a everyday narcissism. That's an everyday narcissistic behavior. Again, I avoid the vast majority of these, just by staying off social media. The place is a total dumpster. It's a landfill of where human beings dump their awful emotions. I hate social media. It's the lack of empathy is so sad. Number 4, unrealistic expectations on people. It's narcissistic to expect people to never slip up. I mean, there's close to 8 billion people in the world. We are in each other's space. We need cooperation and true forgiveness and empathy and compassion and an understanding of, like, yeah, I've been there. I feel that. Yeah, I was in a wrong frame of mind. I can see why someone would do that. I'm just as guilty as that type of thing. Narcissistic attitudes are completely the opposite. These unrealistic expectations. There is 8 billion almost people in this world, and I almost find that it's narcissistic to kind of look at humanity as a whole and expect all 8 billion people to be 100% compliant 100% of the time with 0% anything, and then these big explosions when it happens. This is a loss of touch with reality, actually, to just put certain expectations on other human beings. Human behavior and human nature is what it is, and we can't control that. So, and one of those unrealistic expectations, frankly, is expecting to control other people's behavior. That is not a realistic expectation. Okay, number 5. I've actually talked about this. I already mentioned it. It's the hypocrisy. There's just a ton of hypocrisy. And the thing is, again, everybody's a hypocrite. Everybody is. And that doesn't necessarily make us bad. It doesn't mean that we're conscientious of it. It doesn't mean that we're doing it deliberately. It just means that all of us have those blind spots. All of us have the shadow, man, and do our own shadow work. This is why I strongly believe in Jordan Peterson's rule of get your own house in order. Clean your own room before you go try to fix the world, right? But it's very narcissistic. Well, this is probably one of the most very core narcissistic behaviors that I find is the hypocrisy. But it's very, very, if you have a narcissistic trauma, that hypocrisy is very, very triggering because the message is you're bad just because you're you, right? And when I do things, it's fine because I'm good, because I fall into the category of good. You fall into the category of bad. If I was to give a number 6 on this list, I would say that it's actually kind of everyday average narcissism to try and put people into categories of good people and bad people. And to me, that's just narcissistic, right? And oh, how convenient, right? This is where it comes in, that I notice that when people do this, okay, this category good people, this category bad people, oh, how convenient that I'm also in the category of the good people, right? How convenient that my personal values and opinions line up with the good people. How convenient, right? We can't operate this way, right? And so what I notice, everyday narcissism, again, I don't know that people do this deliberately. Maybe they do. Some people might. But one of those triggers is, there's a group known as good people. And it's really interesting in my work too to notice which of those come to me or talk to me about being a good person or being a bad person. Quite frankly, I have found the people who are the most dysfunctional are the most preoccupied, or the people who have the greatest amount of mental illness have the greatest preoccupation with who's a good person and who's a bad person. And my message to those people is, you know what, just focus on caring about you. Focus on fixing what's happening here. And instead of trying to put people into categories when I just feel like that's impossible. Okay, so I gotta go to work. I really wanted to record more videos today, but I just kind of ran out of time. But thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. See you in the next one. Thanks.